Here is a WPF app. It's an expense report app. Talks to a WCF service. We've used it quite a bit, so if you've watched other videos that I'm in, you've seen this app before, but it's just a pretty straightforward app that shows expenses.
I'm pretty sure we had at least one Skype conversation over this
Yes.
particular piece of code here. My one positive contribution to your life, probably in recent history, but
Oh, there's probably been more. So the app, when it starts up, shows your outstanding charges, okay, and that winds up in this variable charges. So here's what I'll typically do. I'll set a breakpoint here, and I want to be able to see what the charges are, right, because I'm not necessarily seeing the ones I expect in the application. So I'll run this. All right, now I get to here. Let's get that out of the way. And so the first thing I do is I hover over this, charges, and then I gotta click this here, and then I gotta go and click result, and I can see that there are 4 of them. Okay, but it doesn't tell me anything about them, and I can expand these, and I can sort of look through them like that. That's a bit of a pain. I could go into the watch window and add charges, right? There it is. And I can expand that. So this is a little bit easier to work with, but
that's how a lot of times I've done it, right? That kind of pinning used to be the best experience we had access
So what I wound up doing is stopping the app and right here in the code writing select statements, doing queries on charges. And then that code, of course, sits in there, and you got to remember to take it out. Well, now what I can do is I can come to the immediate window, and I could say charges. I can actually type in here, and I get IntelliSense. So charges result dot count, and I can see right here that there are 4 charges. Okay, is there a way to get that bigger right now, or no?
You zoom it. Present a tip for you.
Yeah. So I can get the count, or what I could do is I could run a select statement dot select, and then use a lambda in here. I can get the description. Okay, so there are the 4 descriptions, and I could put a where clause in here. So before the select, I want to know where. Again, we'll use a lambda. So where C dot build amount is greater than 100 dot select. So here's the description for anything greater than 100, and et cetera, et cetera. Now what I can, in real time, I can run my queries. Of course, they get saved in the immediate window. I can copy them out if I want. What I can also do is put these into the watch window.
Now, you haven't said why this is cool, I don't think. I think you kind of went into your demo and you're showing how, but why should the people care out there? Why is this all of a sudden cool? Why this is cool is because while I'm debugging, I can query this variable and see what's in it. I can do real-time, ad hoc querying on it. Is it returning what I'm expecting? What is it returning? Without having to, muck around with these things in the watch window, without having to add code into the application, which may or may not get deleted. This is the ability to explore what's going on in here in more of an ad hoc manner in real time. Yeah, it's that sort of flexibility of being able to do all this and that you couldn't do before completely.
Right.
I mean, lambdas just weren't supported, so that is huge. I love this feature. I don't know how many times I have tried to do this and used to get that error. Oh, it's not supported. And you'd be like, oh my God, the amount of work I'm going to have to do. Finally supported.
Okay, so that's cool. So now, let's talk about testing, right? Now, of course, we all test, rigorously. We create unit tests and all that, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, sure we do.
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
Totally agreeing with you.
So this method here is called when you add a new charge, right? So you went and took a cab somewhere. You need to add that, record that. So I want to have some tests on this. I can right-click in this Create New Charge, and I can actually create unit tests. Let's actually get the Solution Explorer back. Oh, wait, I should use whatever keyboard shortcut that was, right? Control-Alt-2.
Work.
There we go. Work. Actually, I think I wanted a different one, but here's the Solution Explorer. So now I can right-click on this, and we have an option in here to create unit tests. So let's see what that does. That's going to create a new test project. Won't take too long. The anticipation and the excitement builds, and it just created a new test project, but it didn't actually write any tests for me, which is fair enough.
It's where you used to be able to get to, but all of a sudden we have more.
Okay, fair enough, but it doesn't actually. This is useful, but not exactly what I was looking for. So I'm going to remove that. And there was another choice in here. If I right-click on this to create IntelliTest, there's also one called Run IntelliTest. So I'm going to run IntelliTest on this. And let's see what happens. It builds. Now I get the IntelliTest exploration results window. And there are actually tests being run, and one of them failed.
Oh my God, but you didn't write these tests.
I didn't write these tests, but I ran them. So we're seeing that there's a target, new expense service, which is null, and then I get a null reference exception. Why is that?
Because you don't write very good code?
What else you got? What would be
it's a demo because it's a demo?
Looking at the code, why is that?
Okay.
Because this method takes a charge, and somebody could pass a null charge, and my code doesn't handle that. So now this test, which I should have written myself, but didn't, because apparently I'm not a very good developer, I should have tested for that. The IntelliTest will look through my code and run each of the different paths that this can go. What happens if somebody passes nothing for that parameter? Let's create a test for that. Oh, that fails. What happens if somebody does create a charge? And in this case, the charge has probably got a bunch of zeros. You can see charge ID is 0. So what happens if somebody passes a charge with nothing in it, etc.? So the IntelliTest will look at the various paths that my code can run through and actually create and then run tests for this.
Yeah, it's a very cool feature, and it's worth saying that it's in Visual Studio Enterprise. So if you don't have Enterprise, you don't have this feature, but we hope folks that find value in it. I mean, it's a great feature on a complex project.
Now notice that there's no project in here. It didn't actually create a test project until I save this. If I save this now, and this is kind of important to remember, now that gets saved, and we can start looking at the tests that are created.
Yeah, and at this point, you could customize the test, right? Because what it creates doesn't necessarily do everything you want exactly. It gives you out-of-the-box experience, but it saves you so much time just getting to this point. I mean, just having the test that it creates, I find often it is good enough, to get going.
And if I look in the Test Explorer, there's nothing in there until I build. And now that I have built this, there's the test. Create new charge, throws null exception. I can run this, and then of course it will continue to fail because I haven't fixed the issue. So let's go into the code here, and let's say if charge is null, then, oops, now let's just return -1. Okay, because this is returning an integer. Okay, now save this. Now I've changed my code. Does the test get updated? Right? So when does the test get updated? Well, let's just see. I'll build this. Oops. Okay. Run this test. Was it smart enough to automatically update my test? All right, so it's now this is passing because I'm now checking for this. So in each of the paths, I'm testing. Now if we go into the test in here, notice that there's now a couple different methods. Create new charge throws, create new charge, and at any point in time what I can also do is go back to that code, not the test, I'm looking for the actual code, there it is, And I can create IntelliTest on this right now, or I can actually choose to run IntelliTest again. If I'm not sure if the tests have been updated, I can just run IntelliTest again, and it will update the tests for me, and now they pass.
Very cool.
We're going to be doing an episode on this. I know this is a pretty high level, and I'm not doing justice into how it works. We're going to actually tape an episode next week with one of the program managers on this team.
Cool.
So in a couple weeks, we'll have an episode that goes into great detail on exactly what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, IntelliTest to me is one of the coolest features. I mean, we all need to do more of this, more testing, and gets rid of a lot of the excuses.
Okay, so now we're running this application, and I want to be able to explore the UI. Now, if I'm building a web application, I've got the DOM Explorer, I can explore the tree and the various elements, and we haven't been able to do that in XAML applications until yesterday. We now have the ability in Visual Studio 2015 to explore